Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's lecture on Latinx music. So the two articles that we had to read for today, one focuses on Selena and Tejano music, and the other focuses on Chicano rap and hip hop. And the video that I've shared focuses on the history of reggaeton. Now, of course, the history of Latinx music is very long. The varieties of Latinx music that exist is also very diverse. So I'm obviously not covering every type of Latinx music that exists. This is just to discuss a couple of the types of music that we've seen come out of the Latinx community. And in the discussion, you'll have an opportunity to talk about other forms of Latinx music that you perhaps are a little bit more familiar with. So discussing the article about Selena and Tejano music, they really focused on the kind of impact that Selena had on Tejano music and on music more broadly. And so some of these areas of impact, including crossing over borderlands between Texas and Mexico, where she was sort of branding her own contemporary version of Tejano music that people could relate to on both sides of the border. She also sang in both English and Spanish, and that also brought a wider audience to the music and allowed more people to relate to this type of music. The reading also talked about how her performances drew from disco and other forms of African-American music production, and how she also negotiated a gendered and racialized space as a woman in a male-dominated space of Tejano music. The reading also talked about how her music was able to expand beyond Texas and beyond just Mexican-American or Chicano audiences, where she was able to introduce her music to other Latinx groups like Puerto Ricans and Central Americans. And she also introduced Puerto Rican and other Latinx artists to Texas audiences. The reading also talked about how her songs addressed women's emotions and bodies. And they talked about again, in her performances, she was also very much involved in what she wore on stage. And you kind of see in this particular image some of those disco era type of influences of the 1970s with the kind of bell-bottom aspects of her pants, the glitter, and so on, the sparkliness of her outfits. This was all a way for her to sort of create her own version of what Tejano music was for someone like her and for others who could relate to her experience. The other article focused on Chicano rap and hip hop as a specific West Coast form of hip hop that provides commentary on race, ethnicity, and Chicano culture. And it talked about a few popular rappers, including Kid Frost and Cypress Hill. The reading talked about, as a sort of bigger context to why Chicano rap exists, where does it come from, that there has been a long history of African roots to different forms of Mexican music, all the way back to the colonial era. The author also talks about this idea of mestizaje, mulataje, as this history of cultural mixing that you find in different music forms, and how this mixing has continued in the US urban spaces with Chicano culture kind of mixing and coming into contact with African-American culture, and how this cultural exchange in urban spaces in the 1980s led to the creation of Chicano rap and hip hop. And finally, the reading talked about various elements of Chicano rap music, such as using oldies of Black soul music of the 50s and 60s, the use of noise or multi-layered urban sounds as a way to capture the sounds and experiences of urban spaces. The reading also talked about vocal styles and lyrics being influenced by African-American West Coast artists like Tupac Shakur, and how Chicano rap draws from oral traditions and Mexican culture, from poetry to corridos. So the article is really sort of trying to make this connection to explain how Chicano rap and Chicano hip hop may seem unusual, but that in reality, when you look historically, when you look at cultural mixing of Mexican Americans and African Americans in the West Coast, this isn't unusual, right? That it is a normal development for there to be a particular type of hip hop stemming from the Chicano experience, the Chicano community. So this ends our lecture for this week. I look forward to your thoughts in our discussion post about Latinx music. Have a wonderful week.